my view, thought leadership for leaders has always been important. The best business leaders knew that if they're a knowledge authority in their space, it helps their company. And in particular, when they're perceived as a thought leader, it helps them build their brand. Hiring and retention becomes easier, fundraising becomes easier, business development becomes easier, customer acquisition becomes easier. Everything is supported when a brand ambassador is more visible. Usually, thought leadership took on the form of one of three things: speaking at a conference, doing traditional PR, like being on Forbes, and more recently, podcasts. And these were popular for a few reasons. First of all, it gave the person exposure to a net new audience, new people at a conference, new people reading a magazine. And then it also gave them credibility. I gave a TED talk. I was on the cover of Forbes. So it really helped in both of those areas. But there were three distinct disadvantages to traditional PR. At one time, it's one way, and there's pretty much no metrics. If you are not at the conference, you miss out on that exposure to this thought leader. And it's one way. It's the executive speaking to an audience. They may get some nods from people in the audience or some laughter, but there's no real dialogue there. And then virtually no analytics associated with this. When social media came along, it changed everything because it solved for those three problems. Instead of one time, it allowed executives to have an ongoing relationship with their community. It wasn't just one way anymore. It could be a two-way dialogue where they could get feedback, where they could get people interacting with them and actually building a relationship. And then instead of no data, there's actually a lot of data. You can atomize your speaking points and get discrete analytics on what is working and what isn't working. So when it comes to executives for social media, two tend to be the ones that I hear about the most: LinkedIn and Twitter. And I actually think that both of these are great channels for executives. However, I generally recommend that people start on LinkedIn. First of all, LinkedIn has a high quality decision maker. It's a very cultivated audience. It has your existing network to take advantage. But most importantly, I view LinkedIn as the bumper bowling of social media. Twitter, you can have a tweet go viral in a negative way. LinkedIn, we really rarely see that happen. It's a generally positive, supportive group. If you make a mistake on LinkedIn, it will likely go unnoticed. If you do something right, it'll get noticed. So that's why I view it as this bumper bowling. So that's the main reason why I think LinkedIn is so valuable. The most important thing to know about LinkedIn is that performance really boils down to two things: how big is your audience and how engaged is that audience? And even more specifically, how engaged is that audience in the first hour of your post? From everything we can determine, it seems like the algorithm really rewards a post with high engagement in that first hour, and that will kind of make or break the success of a post. Now, there's always deviations here. I've seen people who have 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is a large number, but when they post, they get 2 or 3 likes. So it's an unengaged audience. And I've seen people with 1,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is relatively small, but when they post, they get a really high engagement rate. So it doesn't really matter just the number. It does matter how engaged is your audience.